Well, I've stammered my entire life. For as long as I can remember, I haven't been able to get words out my mouth freely. There's no necessary cause to it. We don't actually know exactly what it is. It's a neurological condition. My dad had a stammer when he was young. My sister has a stammer. So it's like, there must be some hereditary thing in there. I don't think a stammer as a whole is a hereditary thing, because it's basically the buildup of negative associations. I might have said a word not so well when I was young. A fellow classmate said, wait a minute, you've just said that wrong, which leaves a negative association. The next time I go to say that word, I have a fear of saying that word because last time I said it, I stumbled over it or something, and then it kind of snowballs. But my dad is very shy. Yeah. And so maybe I inherited that trait from him, and then that's developed into a stammer. So who knows? It's just now, how I deal with it. I'm part of a speech therapy program called the Maguire program. Teaches you a new way of breathing, a new way of speaking, and also to tackle the mindsets that come with having a stammer, which is the fear of speaking. This situation now is a big feared situation of mine, but I force myself to do it. And by doing these over and over the years, that fear has become smaller and smaller. Yeah, and, on the course that we go on, the biggest fear for us as stammer is to go out onto the streets, speak to people, introduce yourselves into a busy town centre. And so what do? We force ourselves to do that. We introduce ourselves to 100 people, or ask them for directions, or just make a contact with them. And then we do public speaking. We get a soapbox, put it down in the busiest part of the city, and speak to many people watching. And it's only by facing that fear that you start to diminish that fear, and it becomes more manageable, I guess.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's fascinating, and also it must be lovely for you to see the growth and seeing. It's like I've heard you talk about fitness and things like that, and keeping on top of it. It's almost like fitness for your speech, I guess. And so it must be lovely to feel the growth in your ability to communicate. And also, I think what you were just talking about is stressful for anyone. Like, I wouldn't want to go and do, get a soapbox and do public speaking in a town square.
That's right. We see it as a sport. And if you put the work in, if you do the exercises you're supposed to do, and, you have the courage to face these fearful situations, then you start to see results. And without that, I do really struggle. Yeah. I can't handle speaking situations like this, interviews. It's good to have a good level of control over it.
Yeah, I remember you talking about when your daughter was younger and worrying that she would mirror your stammer.
Massively,
Was that how did that play into your mindset?
Yeah, well, that actually made me do something about it, because I didn't want her to hear me stammer and struggle and copy the way that I speak, and then she develops a stammer. She fortunately hasn't. She talks for England, but I really put the work in then, and fortunately, she's absolutely fine.
Yeah, lovely.
I can't speak. I had this terrible stammer. It was much worse than what it is these days. Quite debilitating at times, and so I was so shy. But I knew I could sing, and that was my only form of expression, my only way of getting out of me what was in me. And so my mum sort of asked me to do it. I was very reluctant at the start, but kind of plucked up the courage. But in the show, and every live show on a Saturday night, the format was you kind of walk on once they introduce you, sing your song, head over to the judges, for them to pass comments on how you did. And then you go to Ant and Deck for a chat.
Yeah.
And, I should have been focused on the song because I was there. It's a singing competition, but I was more worried about the chat at the end of it with EventTec. I wasn't worried about the singing.
Yeah.
I was just like, let's just get this over so I can head over there and just, But I was so nervous about that, and it was tough because, having to speak on live television when you aren't able to speak was really, really hard. But it was a great experience, and I'm really fortunate that I got as far as I did and had the career that I had out of it.
Yeah, it's really, I was thinking back about it because I remember those moments. I remember the conversations more than I think I remember the singing, which is interesting, But I think what they were good at then was they gave you the space as well, I think. They gave you quite a lot of space to be yourself.
That's right.
and to speak and answer the questions in the time that it needed, and those sort of things, which we did a huge amount of work for sort of awareness, I suppose.
That's right.
Were you aware of that at the time? And I guess the second part of that as well is not only being aware of it, I just think the more you worry about it, I suppose, the more it kind of, it's cyclical, Is that what it felt like?
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of my greatest achievements is that I heightened the awareness of stammering. Lots of people, even to this day, say to me, it's because of you that I did something about my speech, or not let my affliction hold me back. Not only people who have stammers, any form of affliction.
Yeah.
And, any opportunity I get to mention my speech, I'm a bit sort of advocate for that because, if I can inspire one person to not let, what they're going through hold them back, from what they want to achieve and exactly what they want to be in life, then my work here is done.
Yeah. That's so lovely. I guess my thought process is, if you're worrying about those conversations, whether or not it then sort of heightens the sort of symptoms of your stammer, for want of a better turn of phrase.
That's right.
And so was that something at the time that was a big sort of, what word am I after? Sort of a big thing in your brain? Was it a big focal point for you?
Yeah, and that really sums up having a stammer. You're pushed into a pressurized situation. You know that you're going to find it hard. Live TV, millions of people watching. You try to get your personality across. These TV shows are not just about this singing. It's about who you are. It's about people kind of buying into you as an artist and as a person and a personality. And all that pressure, you're absolutely right. It's just like a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And essentially trying to sell yourself. Yeah. And, I didn't have the capability to do that. But Pop Idol was so great for me because I think if I'd have tried to make it as an artist without a show like that, without letting people in and seeing exactly what I'm about, I don't think I'd have made it in the industry, or I'd have found it much harder. Allowing people to see my speech journey and the struggle, would have only have happened with a show like Pop Idol. And it was the first of all the sort of so what's the sort of backstory.
Yeah.
And now it's sort of all about that.
Yeah.
Isn't it, on these TV shows? But I was the sort of OG of that, I guess.
Yeah.